All right, let's get some things in order. Who is ESPN predicting to leave the Indiana Fever in free agency? Who are they predicting to leave all of these teams? This is the most free agents in WNBA history. Everybody is trying to cash in on this new CBA. We got to figure out who is about to be leaving Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, along with some of the other teams. I think there are a few players that are going to be demanding.
Let's start with the shock that blew up social media this week.
It's very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes. Elliot?
Okay, this is not just wild, this is a complete and total power play. Caitlin Clark has apparently gone from simply changing the WNBA league to completely and totally reshaping her own team's front office. Because the reports are now absolutely flying that Caitlin Clark has not just suggested, but has quietly and very effectively pressured the Indiana management to keep Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, who are two of her absolute and most trusted allies, on this team, no matter the cost. And the craziest part of all of this? It actually worked. So this now forces us to ask the one single and very uncomfortable question. Do you think that Caitlin Clark is right to be able to wield her power like this? Or is she now in the process of totally and completely crossing the line as a player?
It's very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes.
Now, for weeks and weeks, we have all been hearing that Lexie Hull was completely and totally done in the city of Indiana. I mean, there were some tearful goodbyes, there were some farewell posts, and there were even some rumors that she had already started to pack her bags for another team. Well, let me just tell you this. It now turns out that Lexie Hull's entire and very public story was a complete and a total fiction, a fiction that had been built on a foundation of half quotes and of pure unadulterated clickbait, because now we know for a fact that Caitlin Clark had personally stepped in and had made sure that Lexie Hull and that Sophie Cunningham were not going anywhere, because multiple and very well placed sources are now in the process of confirming that Caitlin Clark had gone directly to the Indiana Fever's own personal management and had made it absolutely and completely clear to them that these two are now completely and totally off limits, because she wants them back, she wants some stability on this team, and most importantly, she wants the people that she trusts to be on the floor with her next season. And you know what? She is not wrong, because let's be honest here, Caitlin Clark's own personal second year is a make or break one for this entire franchise, and the Indiana Fever have just gone from being the bottom feeders of this league to being a semi-final team, and they have done it all largely because of her own personal impact and because of the undeniable on-court chemistry that she has been in the process of building with the players like Lexie Hull and like Sophie Cunningham. And you can literally see it on the court every single time that Caitlin Clark drives and then kicks it out to Lexie Hull for a corner three, or every single time that Sophie Cunningham crashes the glass for a putback. And it all just feels so natural, and that is the kind of chemistry that you simply cannot buy at the free agency prices. But of course the media has just twisted it all into a soap opera, because Caitlin Clark saves her friends from being cut just sells better than Fever exercise their restricted free agent rights, just like every other team. So let's just clear up all of the confusion here, because Lexie Hull is a restricted free agent, which means that the city of Indiana is in control of her own personal future, and they can just match any offer sheet that another team throws her way. And she had never said goodbye to the team either. No, she had just said that she was unsure of her own personal future, which is what every single other player says before their negotiations start. But here is where it all gets incredibly interesting, because what had changed everything was Caitlin Clark's own personal reaction to all of this. She had gone public on Lexie Hull's own personal post, and she had commented with just 3 very simple but very powerful words: "So proud of you." And that was not a goodbye. No, that was a signal. It was a subtle way of her saying, "I got you." And trust me, the Indiana Fever's own personal front office saw it, because if Caitlin Clark backs someone publicly, then you had better believe that the team's ownership will take note of it, because this is not the year 2023 anymore. No, because Caitlin Clark is no longer just a player. No, she is now a brand, and she is a brand that is worth millions and millions of dollars, and her own personal voice now matters just as much as the coach's own personal board does. And now let's just talk about why this actually matters, because Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull are not the highest scoring players on this entire roster, but they are the ones who are in the process of bringing that crucial and that very necessary edge and loyalty to this team. And they are the ones who have been in the process of bringing the stuff that had kept this team together when half of the lineup was injured.
Really, really good. Actually, I'm just actually really motivated, and I think I'm at a really good spot in my life where like I'm just excited to just like pour into my body, pour into things that I enjoy, and I'm just so excited for this upcoming season because I don't know where I'm gonna be, and I just feel like in the W, your golden years, I would say, is anywhere from 28 to 34.
I mean, just remember when Caitlin Clark had gone down late in the season, Sophie Cunningham was the very first one to step up in all of the press conferences, and she was out there defending her and keeping the entire locker room calm. And when Lexie Hull had had a rough shooting night, Caitlin Clark had just kept on feeding her the ball right up until the moment that she had finally hit a shot. And that is the kind of trust that you simply cannot fake. So why would the Indiana Fever even risk losing either one of them? The answer is simple: money. Because the Indiana Fever are about to enter an off-season where half of their entire bench will be hitting the free agency market, and where the salary cap is incredibly tight, and they simply cannot pay everyone. But they also absolutely cannot afford to upset the one single player who has brought their entire franchise back from the brink of irrelevance. And that right there is the power of Caitlin Clark, because if she wants someone to be protected, then the team will just listen, period. And this is the very same franchise that had used to make all of its decisions based purely on the analytics and on their own long-term plans. But now they are in the process of making them based on what will keep their number 22 happy. And honestly, that is not even a bad thing, because when you have a generational player who can fill your stadiums, who can sell your jerseys, and who can get you some of those national TV slots, then you build your team around her vision, and you do it not because she is demanding it, but because she has earned it. And let's not forget, the Indiana Fever were an absolute and a complete mess before she had ever arrived there, because they did not just need a point guard. No, they needed a leader with a fan base that could force the management to care once again, and Caitlin Clark had brought that with her. So when she pulls the management aside and she says, "I want Sophie and Lexie back," then it is not just a player who is making a request. No, it is a movement. And for anyone who thinks that she is in the process of overstepping her bounds, then here is the cold hard truth of the matter. This happens. Every single one of the superstars out there has got an influence on their team's rosters. LeBron James does it, Steph Curry does it, and a Ja Wilson does it. Because if you are the reason that the lights stay on in that building, then you get a say in who is on your team. And the only difference is that Caitlin Clark is now in the process of doing it all, younger and faster than anyone else in the entire history of the WNBA. And now, here is where this entire story gets even spicier, because according to multiple and to very well-placed insiders, the Indiana Fever had already planned to cut their costs this offseason by not matching Lexie Hull's next contract offer, and they were fully and completely expecting her to get a series of bids from some of the other teams in this league, who had all seen her as a defensive specialist who could come off of their bench. But once Caitlin Clark's own personal camp had heard that, then everything had changed, and suddenly, the team's management was in the process of reviewing all of their options, and then came the media storm, the rumors of of Caitlin Clark's own private meeting with the team's GM, Lynn Dunn, the discussions about the team's player chemistry, and the talk of her own core preferences. And then just a week later, the entire tone of the team had completely and totally shifted, and now, the very same executives who were all ready to just let Lexie Hull walk are now all talking about preserving continuity and about rewarding chemistry. And the translation of that is simple. Caitlin Clark had gotten what she had wanted, and it was not just about Lexie Hull either, because some of the sources are now saying that Sophie Cunningham, who was under some very heavy scrutiny for all of her very outspoken comments, was also on the chopping block after that whole WNBA warning incident.
I'm not kidding. Come on. Good job.
Yeah, the front office was reportedly ready to cut ties with Sophie to avoid any further distractions. But then came Clark. She stepped in again and made it crystal clear that she wanted Sophie back too. That's right, the player who was getting attacked online for defending Clark is now being protected by Clark herself. That's what real loyalty looks like, and that loyalty has now put management in check. Because here's the thing, if the Fever had actually let Sophie go after everything she did for Clark, it would have been an absolute PR disaster. Fans would have seen it as a betrayal. You simply can't let go of the one player who physically stepped up to protect your franchise star during on-court chaos. That's just not how you build trust with your fan base. So Clark's move wasn't just smart, it was necessary. She saved the Fever from their own bad decision-making and from another round of media backlash. Because let's be real, this team doesn't need more negative headlines. It needs stability, consistency, and the kind of locker room energy that keeps players focused on winning instead of drama. And the chemistry between Clark, Sophie, and Lexie is exactly that. They balance each other out. Clark's fire, Sophie's fearlessness, and Lexie's calm defense. That mix is why they were able to punch above their weight all season. So no, this isn't about friendship or favorites, it's about winning. And Caitlin Clark knows exactly what it takes to win. Now here's where things get even more interesting. What Caitlin Clark just pulled off isn't just about saving teammates, it's a massive statement to the entire WNBA. She basically said, if you want to win with me, you protect my circle. And that message hit hard across the league. Because make no mistake, this wasn't some small locker room request. This was a full-on power move. Clark is now at the point where her voice carries more weight than half the boardroom combined. Every decision Indiana makes from here on out, trades, signings, marketing, goes through one crucial question: how does this affect Caitlin? And honestly, that's how it should be. You don't treat a generational player like a random roster piece. You treat her like the foundation. You build the house around her. And that's exactly what this move proves. Clark is now the architect of Indiana's future. Now let's be real. When people first heard that she had stepped in to save Sophie and Lexie, half the internet freaked out. Some said it was favoritism. Others said she was being too controlling. But here's the thing, those same critics completely forget how much chaos this team went through last season. Half the roster was in and out with injuries. The media was a total circus, and the league had her under a microscope. She got hammered on court, booed on the road, and still kept showing up, dropping threes and dragging her team into the playoffs. You don't survive that kind of season without people in your corner. And for Clark, those people were Sophie and Lexie. Sophie was the first one to speak up when everyone else was silent. When critics took cheap shots, she fired back. When Clark got fouled hard, she was the one ready to throw elbows. That kind of loyalty doesn't go unnoticed. And Lexie, she's the glue. Quiet, consistent, and calm under pressure. The kind of player every star needs next to them. She does all the small things that don't make highlight reels, but absolutely win games. She spaces the floor, defends multiple positions, and never complains about her role. You simply cannot replace that chemistry with some random free agent. You can't trade trust, and Caitlin Clark knows that better than anyone. So yeah, she used her influence to make sure the team doesn't mess with that formula. That's not ego, that's leadership. And if Indiana's smart, they'll take the hint. Because let's be honest, the Fever have been historically bad at keeping momentum. They'll make progress one season, then blow it up the next. Clark's move forces them to break that habit. By backing Sophie and Lexie, she's saying stop rebuilding every 6 months. Start building something that lasts. And that's exactly what championship teams do. Now there's another layer to this story that the media hasn't talked about enough. The timing. This is all happening right before one of the most uncertain off seasons in WNBA history. The collective bargaining agreement is expiring soon, and everyone's bracing for what could be a messy negotiation. A potential lockout in 2026 has players on edge. Nobody wants to be left hanging without a deal, or stuck on a team that doesn't value them. That's why Clark's loyalty move hits differently. She's sending a message to the rest of the roster. If you're loyal to me, I'll fight for you. In a league where players often feel disposable, that matters. And for a young superstar to already have that kind of pull, that's historic. Even veterans like Aja Wilson and Breanna Stewart didn't get that level of say early in their careers. Clark's reach isn't just about her stats, it's about her influence. When she talks, people listen. When she posts, fans move. When she makes a demand, ownership listens. It's wild to think about, but she's becoming the kind of player the WNBA has never had before. A superstar with fan-based power big enough to force decisions. Now let's talk about how this decision impacts the rest of the team. Keeping Sophie and Lexie changes everything about Indiana's direction. It means they're going for chemistry over chaos. It means they're listening to the players who actually make them watchable. It means they're done pretending that this is just a rebuild. Because the truth is, Indiana's window is now. Clark's in her prime, Boston's dominating the paint, and the league is finally paying attention. You don't throw that away to save a few thousand off the cap. This move, keeping Sophie and Lexie, is the Fever saying, we're serious. They're not just keeping role players, they're keeping the heartbeat of the team. And yes, it was Caitlin Clark who made it happen. Now, does this make her the unofficial GM of the Indiana Fever? Maybe not officially, but practically, absolutely. Because think about it, would this have happened if anyone else had asked? No chance. If Sophie or Lexie had gone to management alone, they'd be replaced by now. But with Clark behind them, suddenly they're core culture pieces. That's power, and it's a good reminder of how the WNBA's power dynamic is changing fast. This isn't the old league where players just kept quiet and did what they were told. The new generation, led by people like Clark, is changing how front offices operate. They're not just athletes, they're stakeholders. And Caitlin Clark's move just showed every young player how to use their leverage without saying a single dramatic word. She didn't tweet a threat. She didn't post a cryptic quote. She just told her team what she wanted and got it. And the fans, they loved it. The comment sections were full of people cheering her on. Fever fans calling her the boss. Others saying, finally, someone who knows what this team needs. Because deep down, everyone knows she's right. Keeping Sophie and Lexie isn't just about friendship. It's about building something real. You win championships by keeping the right people around you. Ask any great athlete in history. Michael Jordan had Pippen, Kobe had Fisher, Steph had Draymond, Caitlin has Sophie and Lexie. They're not just teammates, they're extensions of how she plays. They balance her, they protect her, they make the game smoother, and that's why fans are calling this the smartest move of the offseason. Because instead of letting management break apart something that works, Clark forced them to lock it down. That's not diva behavior, that's winning behavior. And honestly, it's about time the WNBA had a star who understands how to build a legacy, not just a highlight reel. So now, heading into next season, the Fever have everything they need: leadership, chemistry, and a core that actually believes in each other. And they have Caitlin Clark to thank for that. The league might not love how much influence she's gaining, but they absolutely cannot deny the results. Because one thing is clear, the Fever are no longer a rebuilding project. They're a team being shaped by the most powerful voice in women's basketball. And if management was smart enough to listen this time, it might just be the first real step toward a championship run. So what do you think? Did Caitlin Clark just save the Fever from another offseason disaster? Or is she getting too powerful for her own good? Drop your thoughts below. Hit like and subscribe for more breakdowns of the drama behind the WNBA headline. Because one thing's for sure, when Caitlin Clark speaks, Indiana listens.